What if people don't crack under pressure, but instead they default under pressure? They go back to what they are used to, what they're comfortable with. Today, I'm going to break down 3 mental systems that I teach performers to use when everything is on the line. If you have ever started to feel like you can't breathe or your chest is tightening or do I even belong in this situation? You want to steal these 3 systems and put it into action as soon as possible.
Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
After watching the Olympics, my phone would not stop buzzing. If you didn't listen to the Sunday episode that I just dropped, go back and listen to that. You're going to hear more about what people were sending me, but coaches, parents, athletes I work with, leaders in different businesses were sending me text messages. If I had to summarize what these messages were about, it was related to why do they fall apart like that? They've done this their whole life. How does someone that talented miss in that moment? I kept saying the same thing back. They didn't fall apart. They defaulted. We are all going to default back to what is comfortable. If you aren't training to deal with the pressure, your brain is going to figure out, how am I going to do this? And you're going to go back to what is easy and comfortable. You are not going to rise to the moment like the pretty posters on the wall and the Instagram quotes that people are throwing out there. You are going to drop to your training. Most athletes and most leaders, people in the business space, have trained skills, the physical, the how to do this, the systems. They have strength training. They have strategy. There's preparation and practice for all of these things, but not their nervous system. When the lights get brighter, it gets noisier, the crowds are louder, when the stakes get even heavier, the system underneath is going to be exposed. That is why when you're sending those messages to me, you're seeing people fall apart. How could this happen? They are elite. Today, I'm going to walk you through these 3 systems that elite performers in high-stake moments should be using. You need to understand how to use these systems. This is not hype. It is not a motivational pep talk. It is a system. I want to take you back a few years ago. I was working with a high-level athlete, a basketball player. This was not a recreational athlete. There were televised games. Stands were packed. College recruiters were always watching him. In practice, he was dominant. Really beautiful to watch. It was the kind of player where you would just say, wow, this is just pretty. It was so beautiful in motion seeing him go down the court. It was almost as if he was in flow all of the time, and it was just like a wow situation. Passes were sharp, very vocal as a leader, calm during the drills, a coachable. He was a kid really at the time. I was about to say coachable kid. He was a kid. He was a coachable kid. I'm laughing to myself because he's a grown man, but I always say kid because I think of him in this moment. It's funny how that happens when you work with someone at a certain time. You always see them in that way. So when I say coachable kid, I'm thinking back to those moments. Anyway, he just really controlled the tempo. I bet if I asked one of the athletes who was on that team, even now, they would describe him as the leader, the one all the players would be leaning on. When game day came around, he did step on the court and own it with confidence. But if a small mistake happened, it didn't matter what it was, a routine pass, so a turnover happened, There was crowd noise that just shifted slightly. He would be jogging back on defense, and you could see his shoulders would drop even just a little bit. I knew right in that moment that things were about to shift. In the next play or two, I would see him rushing in a decision that he would normally have made perfectly, wouldn't even be thinking, would have just been in flow. Instead of scanning, he would force passes. Things would be turned over again, and you could just see it happening. He wasn't calm and controlled. He stopped communicating. His jaw tightened. And by the third mistake, he just wasn't even playing the game anymore. He had checked out. It's almost like he took his uniform off and threw it on the sidelines. And he wasn't negative in any way, was still that coachable kid, but you could see mentally he was in his head. He was overthinking mechanics. He just wasn't in the flow anymore. Once we started working together on a regular basis, it was actually the whole team, but he would be very willing to talk about it. He said that he would start overthinking, and in his brain, he was thinking about things that he had mastered back in middle school, maybe even elementary school, if we were being honest. Quite literally, he was saying things like, I would be thinking, where are my feet? Why did I do that? Things like, don't mess up again. When you're saying these things to yourself, you try not to mess up, you start to play scared. Your brain is focusing on messing up. So what happens? You mess up. The body is going to get tightened. Your vision is narrowed. You're not scanning and seeing the whole court if you're that basketball player. After games and when we were in our sessions, he would sit across from me. Eyes would be glossy, about ready to cry. I really loved him as a kid because he was so passionate about trying to be the best version of himself and the best leader for the team. He would say, I don't know what happens. It's like my brain turns on me. His nervous system was trying to protect him. When he was saying my brain is turning on me, what's actually happening here is when something went wrong, no matter how small it was, his nervous system was interpreting that as a threat. Not necessarily the scoreboard threat, like, oh no, we're not going to win the game, but his body inside, his breathing, his internal thoughts, that spiraling, why did I just do that? All of those things that he was honestly admitting, this was an identity threat, a social threat, a reputation threat, and his body was acting accordingly. His heart rate, no doubt, would be spiking if I was checking it. Fine motor skills were decreasing. That's why he was messing up these passes. Decision-making was getting impulsive. His body language, you could literally see it happening. That's not lack of preparation. That's not lack of talent. It's simply an untrained pressure response. Your body doesn't know what to do in this pressure response. You have to practice what to do when this happens. Top athletes, top performers in anything, they don't avoid mistakes. What they do is they know how to recover faster. The gap between a mistake and composure is the difference between the average person and the elite. If you see someone recover, that's not accidental, it's trained. In system 1, the reset system, let's get to how we train this. First part, your breathing. You need to exhale longer than you inhale. It is a long, controlled exhale. The second part, your posture. I want you to focus on shoulders back, chin up, eyes up. You cannot think clearly and breathe properly when you're in that collapsed, bad body language posture. Next thing, your mental reset. I want one sentence, short, repeated, and automatic. If I'm thinking of something that my teams or my corporate space would use, it could be something like next play, calm and clear, or I've done this 1,000 times. The key part for this reset is you need to train this in practice. You need to be guided in the visualizations because you cannot expect this to show up when you are in that panic situation. When I explain this to people, I tell them it needs to be trained in a practice situation with high pressure, not invented in panic. You cannot expect to just in a game situation or in that presentation to just automatically say, I'm going to exhale longer. No, you have to practice this just like you would practice physically giving that presentation or physically running the plays in whatever sport we're talking about. If you don't pre-decide and practice your reset phrase, your body language, and your breathing, your brain will decide it for you. And under pressure, it is going to choose, don't mess up again. Don't mess up again. You're blowing it. Everybody's watching. This is when the spiral is going to happen. In that corporate version, you're in the boardroom, you're presenting slides, and you get to, let's say, slide 3. Somebody interrupts. You know that person who's always interrupting. Can you explain that number again? Can you go back to the last slide? Your brain blanks for half a second. You feel heat starting to rise up in your chest. If your internal script, that inner chatter starts saying, this is going badly, your voice tightens, you start talking faster, you overcompensate. It's the same spiral. It's just a different arena. Your reset system is going to interrupt here, and it needs to be practiced. Let's go a little bit deeper and get into system number 2. Another athlete I worked with who was known as the star, every introduction mentioned it. Commentators called her the one that we should all be watching. Her teammates often deferred to her. They would look at her or they would mention her. Social media reinforced it. She wore this almost like her badge of honor and armor until she had an off game. First half, she just was off. Her shots were off. Timing was off. You could see the panic building in her. Not necessarily because of the score, but the narrative that I knew was floating through her head. I'm not carrying the team. Who am I? By halftime, she wasn't necessarily frustrated. She looked afraid. She looked terrified, if I'm going to be honest. She was afraid of course, losing. No one wants to lose, but also losing this status, afraid of disappointing people, all these expectations that people were holding for her and the expectations she was holding for herself. She was afraid of not matching this identity that really everyone assigned to her, and she wrote on her own name tag. This is what happens when outcome becomes your identity. I hear people say this in a lot of different types of environments. With my sports teams, people say things like, we're just expected to win. Someone on a sales team said, I've been thinking about this, and if I don't close a deal, I really start to question, am I even good at this? When people start carrying this as my identity is tied to my performance, carrying it becomes really heavy and it's stressful. So I want to get to system number 2 related to that. Identity built on standards, not outcomes. Now, before I even get into this, we need to know that we want to win. We want to be successful. We want to close the deal, but your identity is not linked to that. This is not who you are as a person. System 2, we are building identity that is linked to standards, not the outcome. You can't control the outcome, and the outcomes are going to fluctuate. You are not going to win every single time. You are not going to have the highest score every single time. But I need you to be able to reframe this so when something doesn't work out well, you can shift. Just like we talked about in system 1, you have to be able to shift. What we're going to do in system 2 is you are going to reframe it and flip the script. You are going to change the inner chatter, the self-talk that's floating through your brain. If you are focused just on that outcome, you're going to be hearing things or saying things to yourself like, I am good at this if I win. If we're focused on the standard, I execute no matter what. That is very different, right? One is fragile, one is stable. Say that again. I am good if I win. The second one, I execute no matter what. You have prepared, you know what to do. The first one, you cannot always get that win. So that's fragile. The second one is stable because you are executing no matter what. You know what to do. When you can shift your identity from I am the star to I am disciplined, I communicate, I compete with composure, it changes the way you show up. If you're a coach and you're trying to shift this for your athletes and you get to halftime, instead of the athlete saying, I have to dominate, or you saying to the athlete, I have to dominate, it needs to be shifted to this. Am I executing my standards? Am I executing exactly what I know what to do? Am I talking on defense? Am I resetting after mistakes? Am I attacking and making decisions quickly? These are things that you can answer. When you say, I have to dominate, that isn't something that you can control, but you can control all of those other things. If you can shift to this, it's going to stabilize you. It's going to stabilize the athlete because you can literally say, am I executing? You can answer definitively, am I executing the way I am supposed to run this play? You can answer yes or no. Am I talking on defense? Let's flip this to the corporate version. Instead of saying, did we land the deal? You are going to ask a question. Did we communicate our standards, what we want under pressure? Instead of saying something like, did I impress them? Because you don't know. You can't figure that out. Instead, you're flipping it to, did I stay clear, grounded, and prepared? You can clearly answer that. You cannot clearly answer, and it's too connected to the identity piece there instead of standards when you're saying, did I impress them? You know, though, if you stayed grounded, identity being tied to standards, when you do that, you stop riding this emotional roller coaster of the outcomes and stop that spiraling that is happening. And your consistency, whether it's in the athletic arena or the corporate space, will increase. What do championship teams, standout students, and elite companies all have in common? A trained mindset. The Champion Within programs aren't fluff. They're mental performance blueprints that build focus, resilience, confidence, and clarity when it counts. Now is the time to set this up. Not next season, not next quarter, now, when the pressure is real and the habits are forming. Whether you're on the field, the courts, in the classroom, or leading a boardroom, your people need transformation and mindset training. Let's partner. Let's co-create this. Let's build the mindset that fuels the next level. Schedule a quick call. Just go to the show notes after the podcast and use the link. Let's design the exact experience your people need because they already have the talent. Now we build the belief. Let's move to the third system here. After a major cheer competition, an athlete of mine said to me, it had nothing to do with the skill. It was my thoughts in my head. She described standing there and the crowd being loud. She said she literally felt like cameras were everywhere. She could hear announcers, people saying the team names. It was just like in her face. She said, my brain started running the worst case scenarios. What if I mess up? What if our whole team falls? What if this is the moment everyone remembers us for the wrong reasons? Then she tried to push the thoughts away, which guess what happened then? The thoughts got louder. Pressure in these situations is like holding a megaphone and making it louder and turning the volume up and up every time you start repeating these things to yourself. This is when your mental training will be revealed. Most people are shocked by their thoughts under pressure. Even the top people, like in the Olympics, people who are in professional sports, top CEOs, they're shocked because we expect them to just be able to do this. But if you are not training your brain for these situations, you're not going to be able to do it, and your brain is going to try to protect you. System number 3, thought rehearsal under pressure. When she was having all of these thoughts spiraling into her brain, elite performers in this situation don't just rehearse the perfect outcome. Yes, we do rehearse that, but we also rehearse seeing issues happen. And what we do, what we say, quite literally, I make them visualize missing the shot, falling in that cheer routine, the crowd reaction, the scoreboard shifting, losing points, the judge's reaction, a tough question in a meeting, awkward silence after somebody made a statement. Then we mentally rehearse staying steady. We have to go over this and put the reps in. While we do this, we slow down our breathing. We focus on resetting that posture. Then we see ourselves delivering the next move, the next play, the next stunt calmly. When any type of setback, adversity, anything happens in real life, your nervous system says, oh, I've seen this before, because we have practiced it. Visualization is so powerful. I probably should put this system at the top. These aren't numbered in any particular order, but most teams visualize the highlight reels, which is fine. That is going to help you. It's not going to hurt you. But few are visualizing what I call the storm. You have to see yourself in the eye of the storm. No, it doesn't feel good in there, but you got to feel it. You got to see it. You got to experience it. I lead people through this because nobody wants to be in there. Unless you're like one of those hurricane people and you love to run to the storm and, storm chasers, whatever they call themselves, chances are you probably aren't wanting to put yourself in that situation. It doesn't feel good. And if you've never imagined your brain going negative, you won't recognize it when it happens in real life. You need to not only be able to recognize this in real life, but you need to have that familiar default that you know what to do. We've been here before. This is so powerful, and it is something that has to be put into practice. If you want to put this in the corporate setting, I want you to be rehearsing pushback, rehearsing somebody disagreeing with you publicly, rehearsing staying composed when maybe an authority, a leader, a manager on the team is challenging you. Pressure is not the enemy in these situations. You know what the enemy is? When you are surprised by it. You need to be prepared. This is going to reduce that surprise. If you are prepared, your body's default is, I've been here before. I know exactly what to do. Let's bring all three of these systems together. Number one, your reset system. Number two, identity built on standards. And number three, your thought rehearsal under pressure. You need to be training these consistently. Your team needs to be training these consistently. Of course, I'm talking to my athletic teams. You are on so many teams, my corporate teams, your personal life teams, your classroom teams, whoever you are listening to my podcast right now, think of all the teams you're a part of. Your teams and you as an individual need to be training these consistently, and that is how your performance becomes stable. We are not saying it's going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to experience these things that happen, the pushback, the setback, the adversity, the uncontrollable situations in a game, in a corporate situation. But the stable performers, they are the dangerous ones in these high-stake environments. They are the people that you say, wow, they always seem so composed. They don't unravel. They know how to adjust because they are practicing it. You need to put this into practice. The athletes on the biggest stages, like we're watching the Winter Olympics right now, they didn't suddenly lose talent. The environment got louder. The expectations got heavier. Don't even get me started about the comparison on social media and all of the crazy things people are writing. That's a whole episode in itself. But the margin gets thinner here. Their mental systems are tested. The real question, are you only training skill and strategy, or are you training your nervous system too? You need to remember that pressure isn't going anywhere. But the good news is that you, your team, can be someone and a group of people, a team together who handles it differently. This is what is going to change everything for you. This is the work that you need to put in. I am here for it. Send me a message. I cannot wait to help you level up.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.